The very first step to driving diabetes away from your door in your life is to realize what category of foods you have to avoid. And of course, if you've watched me for any time at all, you know that that category would be the carbohydrates. And when you get involved in looking at the keto movement, the low-carb diet, and so forth, you start thinking, all right, how low does my carbohydrate count need to be per day? Sadly, in some people's eyes that are not low carb, they think it's fine for you to eat 250, 350, 400 grams of carbohydrates per day. But in the keto movement / low carb, you hear numbers like 75 grams of carbs per day, 50 grams of carbs per day, 20 grams of carbs per day. And some who kind of lean carnivore will say, well, it ought to be almost no carbs, no grams of carbs per day. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to look at the carnivore diet as it can be used as a tool. And no, I'm not 100% carnivore at all. Never have been, probably never will be. I've learned to say probably in a lot of cases, so can't guarantee it, but there's just no need for that in my life. If you need it, then fine, that's what you need to do. And I have heard from some that said that's the only way I can really keep my numbers at a reasonable level, my glucose levels. But in most cases, that's not the case. Most of us can do very well with eating meats and salads and seeds and nuts and cheeses and so forth. Now, if you look at this plate, what I've got here is basically my dinner for the night, although I'm sure I won't eat all of this, but this is basically what I'm going to eat as my dinner for the night, which is cheese and meat. And we've got some of the cheese that comes already pre-sliced, and we've got some Swiss cheese, some cheddar cheese, and I don't even know what this is, but whatever that is, it's cheese. And then we've got the sausage cut in slices and some deli ham. If you look at these foods, there's just essentially no carbs. Now, the point I want to make in this little video is that while I don't feel it's necessary for everybody to do the carnivore diet, be 100% carnivore, nothing but meat, I do think the carnivore concept can work very well as an occasional or a regular part of your day-to-day eating. What I mean is, no, I don't do carnivore all the time, every meal, but I do carnivore meals. And I have recommended carnivore days for people on our challenge. In fact, one of the keystones, one of the major encouragements that I give to people that have done these challenges to get your glucose down to normal is make Monday a carnivore day. So on Mondays, you eat nothing but meat, and it could be cheese, basically animal products that are not high in carbs. And most animal products are not high in carbs. In fact, they have very few. Cheese and meat like these would be an example. So, carnivore by itself could be a solution, but another solution is just to fill in certain meals, certain days, maybe even certain weeks with a carnivore-type diet. Now, carnivore means different things to different people. Some people, it's like meat, nothing but meat. Others say, well, it's meat and dairy, as long as it's high-fat dairy, which would be my attitude. So we're kind of in the Wild West, folks, when it comes to these diets. So what is low carb? What is keto? What is carnivore? And there are different definitions depending on who you talk to. My definition of carnivore is it's basically animal products. And if dairy is involved, which it often will be, that's fine as long as it's high-fat dairy, not the low-fat dairy, and not milk. But cream would be legitimate, and butter, of course, cheese, and so forth. So let me just give you an example of a carnivore day if you chose that. First of all, for your breakfast, just have some bulletproof coffee and put in some cream and some butter in your coffee. Maybe a tablespoon of butter and several tablespoons of heavy cream, heavy whipping cream. Bam, there you go. It's not going to raise blood sugar much at all. So if you're going to have a carnivore day, which I would encourage you to do sometimes, that would be my suggestion. Now, for lunch, you could have a hamburger patty and put a slab of cheese on there, and maybe even fry an egg and put the fried egg on top of the hamburger and the cheese. Now, some of you will say, yeah, Dennis, but if I just have a hamburger patty and a piece of cheese on top with an egg, that wouldn't fill me up. I'm a big eater, and it takes a lot to fill me up. Well, that's not a problem. Just have 2 hamburger patties with some cheese and a couple of eggs on there. You say, well, I don't even know if that would fill me up. Then have 3 hamburger patties. Now, I'm not telling you to pig out and just be a glutton, but I am saying that one of the keys to making a diet work is where you leave the table satisfied. So if you're constantly hungry and you say, I can't fill up, then then that's not going to work for you. So you want to fill up. Same thing with this. Now, this would fill me up. I mean, this is plenty of a meal, and it's more than I plan to eat. But if I just had like 2 or 3 slices of cheese and maybe a couple of slices of the deli ham and maybe 3 or 4 little tiny pieces of sausage, and I eat that and I say, well, that didn't fill me up, then just bring on some more cheese, bring on some more deli ham, bring on some more sausage. Because these things have so few carbs, you can get by with eating more of them. So you cannot use the excuse it doesn't fill me up, because if you're dealing with truly low-carb foods like meat, like cheese, you can just keep piling it on until you do get filled up. So for breakfast on our sample typical carnivore day, we could have bulletproof coffee. For lunch, we could have a couple of hamburger patties with some cheese and an egg or 2 on it. And then for supper, we could have this. This could be our supper. Now, keep in mind that supper is really the most important meal of your day. I know everybody's been telling you ever since you were a little tiny thing that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. But for the person wanting to get their glucose under control, let me say that is a lie, a flat-out lie. Supper, dinner is your most important meal of the day if you're going to eat a dinner. Now, some people skip dinner altogether, and they just have a regular breakfast, regular lunch, and that's it. And that's perfect. That's absolutely great. But if you're going to eat a dinner, which I do, then dinner becomes very important. Why is that? Because if you give your body too many carbs to have to process, it's going to be working on those carbs and processing those carbs, and your glucose is going to be rising too much, and it's just going to go on through the evening, may even go into the night. Your morning glucose is not going to look very good. But if you go easy on the carbs and you go light on the dinner, and let's say you have something like this, but you don't eat nearly this much, you're going to be in good shape. Your body will finish processing the tiny fraction of carbs that are in this meal very quickly, and then you'll be set for the night. And another good thing is you won't go hungry, because this has enough fat in it, especially with the sausage and the cheese. You're not going to go hungry. So this is going to be a great meal. You may say, but Dennis, this isn't a balanced meal. There's no vegetables. Aren't you supposed to have vegetables every meal? Aren't you supposed to have fruit every meal? No, there's no law in stone that says that. I do enjoy salads. I do enjoy vegetables, low-carb vegetables from time to time. But I tend to prefer them for my lunch meal rather than my supper. Supper is a great time to eat light, to eat very few carbs, give your body a vacation, let it coast on into your sleeping time with almost nothing to do. Give your body a rest, give your pancreas a rest, give your metabolic system a rest, and just give your body a nice, easy night of it. And then you may wake up in the morning and be pleasantly surprised that you don't have high blood sugar, or the dawn effect isn't as prominent. You'll probably still have it, but it won't be as bad. So this is just an example. Carnivore meals, carnivore days, and maybe sometimes when things are getting a little out of control, you may even want to do a carnivore week. Are there any problems with eating meals like this that have practically no carbs? Yeah, the one problem is if you're taking diabetic meds, especially if they're strong ones, that are forcing your pancreas to put out insulin, or if you're taking insulin itself, and you eat meals like this that have almost no carbs, there's a chance you could go way too low. So I'm not even recommending this for someone who takes diabetic meds or insulin. You're going to have to gradually wean your way off of it through other means. But if you have gotten free from the meds and free from the insulin, then you can do carnivore meals, carnivore days, carnivore weeks, and it will really help you. Basically, what we're saying is carnivore, although I don't do it 100% of the time, it is a tool in your toolbox to beat diabetes. Just like the carpenter's going to have a hammer in his toolbox. You can't be a carpenter without a hammer. If you've got a toolbox and I look through it and I say there's no hammer here, I would suspect you're not much of a carpenter. And if you're a golfer, you better have a pitching wedge in your golf bag. If you don't have a pitching wedge in your golf bag, what kind of a golfer are you? And if you really, really, really want to beat diabetes, you're going to have carnivore in your toolbox. It is something you will employ from time to time, meal to meal, season to season, to help keep things under control. I want you to know that I have another YouTube channel. It's called by my name, Dennis Pollock, and on this channel, my wife Benedicta and I teach the basics of the Bible in a simple, user-friendly fashion. Normally, on Mondays, I post what I call a video devo, in which I take various Bible topics and share scriptures to help you understand the subject a little better. On Thursdays, I post Bible studies by Benedicta and me as we sit at our dining room table and discuss various portions of the Scriptures. We cover book studies and Bible character studies. So catch me on Mondays sharing devotional talks, and Benedicta and me on Thursdays as we study the greatest book in the world, the Bible. Check in the description to find a link to our Bible teaching channel, which is called by my name, Dennis Pollock.